Here's today's Money Metals Minute, brought to you by MoneyMetals.com. Precious metals zoomed upwards Tuesday. More bad economic news increased investor certainty. The Fed will once again punt on hiking interest rates. Bad economic news, much weaker than expected performance in the service sector. Wound up being good news for stock prices. The news also hammered the dollar, which is what precious metals bulls need in order for prices to finish the year as strongly as they began. Now here's a special report from Mike Gleason of Money Metals Exchange.
It is my privilege now to be joined by our good friend David Morgan of the Morgan Report. You've always had great advice for people when it comes to getting into precious metals. You've written your 10 rules of investing in the sector, and I know owning the physical metal is first and foremost in your views. Talk about why you recommend owning the physical bullion before you do anything else.
Well, almost anyone that's in this sector, and that can go from anybody that's like a prepper or as extreme as a survivalist, or someone that's familiar with financial markets and monetary history. Everyone understands that we're at risk at all times, and especially now we're in a situation on a global basis we've never been in before, which is that the reserve currency of the world is failing, which means you need something outside of the system. You need something that's not electronic based. You need something that has no counterparty risk. You need something that's universally recognized. And you need something of high value that could be used anytime, anywhere, by anyone. And that, of course, is gold and or silver. And this has been the case. So if there were, let's say, a problem with the banking system where we go to the report that's for free on the morganreport.com, you might go there, give me an email and a first name. You'll get the Riches and Resources report, which shows you what happened during the currency crisis of 2000, 2001 in Argentina. The film's name is The Empty ATM, and they did not take your bank accounts. They just basically sealed them, where the money in the bank was held by the bank, and they only allotted you so much you could take out on a weekly basis, no matter who you were, no matter what your account size was. And then they devalued the currency, which is basically stealing from you. So this is what took place. So I say all that to state how emphatic I am, how important it is for people to have real money outside of the system. Those people in Argentina that held some of their wealth in gold and silver circumvented the devaluation and also had readily available, recognizable, and cherished real money that they could barter with, which took place all over the country in Argentina during that currency crisis that I just mentioned. So I really, really believe that this could take place in other areas of the world. Certainly if you're in Venezuela right now and you had some precious metals, you might not have a smile on your face, but you certainly would be better off than people that didn't. So these are really interesting times, and we are in a paradigm that is failing, and the powers that be are propaganda, saying and telling everyone through the mainstream media that everything's fine, go back to sleep, we've got it under control, things are wonderful, and that type of thing, when the reality, of course, most people can just look out their window or drive down their main street of their town and take a look around and say, things don't look as good as they did a decade or two ago.
Are there any products that you prefer over others?
Yeah, I have 10 rules of silver investing. I said you should strive to get the most ounces per dollar or yuan or whatever currency you have invested, which means, first of all, small units. You definitely want to start with small units. You don't want to have one 100-ounce bar and that's your silver holdings, because now you're in a kind of a fix. You've got to make one absolutely correct decision when to turn it back into fiat currency or barter with it or whatever. So you want small coins if you have rounds, but if you're particularly interested in recognizability, for example, and you want a government stamped coin, you're willing to pay a slightly higher premium, I have nothing against that. Also, the constitutional silver, or what's known in the trade as junk silver, I think that's still a good way to go. The bag market actually is fairly tight. So much has been smelted down into bars. There isn't a lot of it around, actually. But small units, rounds or recognizable coins are the way to go. I think you can start with silver if you're modest means. If you have better means than that, I think you certainly should have some gold. I think you should actually have both if you can afford it. And I also think that moderation is the key. I think, a 10% holding in physical metal is probably more than sufficient for most people. There are people like me that have a great deal more than that involved, but this is my life's worth.
That was David Morgan of the Morgan Report and Mike Gleason at moneymetals.com. Live prices at moneymetals.com show gold currently trading at $1,348.95 per ounce. Silver comes in at $19.97.